Welcome back, everyone, to this podcast episode. Today, I'm really happy to announce our guest speaker, Daniel Alvarez. And I'm so happy to have you here, Daniel, because I know and I remember we met each other like 1 year ago, and it was very unexpected. And this is, the beautiful thing on the entrepreneurial journey. You always make connections and you never know what might arise from that. So, yeah, we initially met up for Jason Capital, where it was like a social media course where we learned things. And this is how we met and connected. And ever since then, a lot of things has evolved. And we both took on this journey of the entrepreneurial path. So I'm so happy to have you here, and thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me here, Austin. I'm really, really excited to be in that podcast also, and to be able to reach so many like-minded entrepreneurs through that podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, so you're one of the most innovative as well as the outside of the box thinking entrepreneurs out there in terms of real estate.
Yeah, we can say that. Well, mind you, for the people who are listening to me, I'm not a technology wizard. I didn't invent anything, to be clear. What I do is that I am currently developing a startup that is in real estate tokenization. So we put together real estate and the blockchain technology so that people can invest so easily into real estate by only doing a couple of clicks on their smartphones or computers. So that's what I'm up to.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. And, the way I thought, with the whole innovation point, of course, it goes a lot also into technology. But what I'm saying is like, I feel that you're a very, creative person. You have the power to think outside of the box. Why do you think is that so important for entrepreneurs to have the mindset of thinking outside of the box?
Well, I think, thinking outside of the box is really important because as an entrepreneur, you're solving problems, right? You're solving some kind of pain out there in the marketplace. And the thing is that there are already a ton of people addressing those pains. So it's important for you as an entrepreneur to bring value that other companies maybe do not bring, is to think outside of the box and address this pain in a different way. It's, for example, I love this quote. It's from Henry Ford, who said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. So he thought outside of the box and he said, no, I'm not going to deliver them a faster horse. I'm going to give them an automobile.
Yeah, wow, that's a really great one. Yeah, I do realize it as well in the entrepreneurial space that many people have great ideas. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, especially aspiring entrepreneurs, have tons of ideas, but they don't really make something out of it. And it does come from a certain fear. And I would love to talk about this topic of the fear of standing out. Yes. Now, looking at your own personal experiences, do you have one of the examples that you could share with us where you had the fear of standing out, but later you actually overcame it and now you're so happy that you did it?
Well, it's a bit of a fun experience. My relationship to the fear of standing out and this pressure to conform and this conformism. I think it exists in English, conformism. I have a pretty special relationship with that and story with that because it started at a very early age, as soon as primary school, to be precise.
Okay.
I remember back then it was the very first MP3 players, iPods, etc. It was really the first ones, and everybody had one in my class. And I remember back then, it was back in 2005, 2004, something like this. Everybody in my class was listening to rap music, to Eminem and all of that. And I was the only one who didn't like this kind of music. I liked other musics like rock music or hard rock or Metallica, this kind of songs. And I was the absolutely only one. And that was the first instance where I stood out because of my musical tastes. And I received a lot of backlash out of this standing out. People was telling me that what I was listening to was old-fashioned. It was not, that it was completely out of fashion, that it was ugly, etc. That it was so weird that I didn't listen to rap music like everybody else. And my attitude about it was, they're like, well, screw it. I don't like rap music, so I'm not going to listen to it because everybody does. So that's my first instance of standing out, despite the fear and the pressure of not standing out. And I'm really happy that I did it, and especially that I did it at such a young age, because it kind of developed my muscle to go for what I want, irrespective of what society or my peer group or what other people might think or say about it.
I love that you brought up this simple example. I mean, it has nothing to do in business, but I think it starts already there with those things. And did you like, has this always been a thing that was easy for you to say, I don't care what others think, I'll just go ahead and do it? Or did you have those moments where you did have this fear in subconsciously, and then therefore you held back, or something took longer?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I have the impression, I don't know if I'm born with this ability to do what I want without really caring too much what other people say, or if this early experience kind of forged this trait in me. I don't really know if it's, in my DNA, or if it's just something that I learned. And then what was I going to say? Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, but I'm really glad that I did. And later, of course, I was in many, many other situations where I was in this facing this fear of standing out, and it was there, it was present. But again, it's like a muscle. So as time went on, I became better at it. Another instance where I kind of felt this fear pretty strongly was actually much more recently. When I graduated, to be precise. Like when I graduated, everybody was going for their graduate programs in big companies. They were having their first jobs, etc. They were really having their adult life, buying a nice car, going on nice vacations, etc. And I wanted a little bit of a different path. I wanted to develop this startup I'm working on at the moment. So that was already standing out. I remember during my graduation at the University of Geneva, everybody was saying me, "Oh, what you're up to? Where are you working?" And then when I told them what I was up to, I remember those eyes that they gave me, like really puzzled eyes. But despite that, yeah, it was difficult at this moment, but I could overcome it. Again, I thought about my previous experiences, as long as dating back as far as primary school, and I could overcome it and realize that actually the only way to make myself happy is to go for what I really want to go for.
That's beautiful. I love that you have this in your blood DNA, whatever we call that. It's funny because I feel on this point is something that I can also relate to. I do feel that despite the different transformation of in the past holding myself back and now being much more forward with what I want to do, there was maybe underlying some things which I would sort of, what might other people think? I mean, at some point we do, the thought go just through, but then the difference is, do we give power to that lets us stop it, And I think many people do give the power. Maybe in our case, we really just don't give any, I don't say this word,
Yes.
we just don't care, but I think many people do. And it's something that holds many people back from actually moving ahead with their purpose and potential. What would be your perspective, or what would you say to those people who actually know what they want to do, but they cannot move forward because, they have all those fears, what other people think?
Yeah, well, I think that there is one thing about this fear. It has a lot to do with ego, actually. It's thinking that you're much more important than what you really are for other people. Because the thing is, and that's a realization also I had and kind of helped me to combat this fear, is that people really are too focused, thinking about themselves to think about you. If you say that you're going to go for that entrepreneurial journey when everybody else wants to be an employee, when you say it, people might be a little bit surprised. They have this, "Oh, really?" moment. But then they come back to their lives, they're not thinking about it. That's a big realization that I had. You really have to diminish a little bit your own importance that you have in other people's life. And when you realize that when you go for what you want, people are not going to think much about it. And also, there are going to be some people who are going to be really disagree with it, and you're going to receive some backlash out of it. You also have to understand to not take it personally, that they're kind of, more often than not, maybe it's a bit preposterous to say this from me, but I have the impression that there's a good deal of jealousy when people are really giving you a hard time when you're going for really what you want to, because I think that deep down they want to do that, but they don't dare to do it.
Yeah.
So that's a big realization. That's step number one. Realize that really it's an ego thing, that your importance in other people's life is not that big. Really, people don't care that much about what you do or what you don't do. So that is going to diminish the fear significantly. And also, second thing, it's more of an exercise. I realized, that's my own observation, right? That I have no scientific data to back this up. But people who are really scared of what other people might think are also people who are very scared of public speaking, right?
Oh, that's an interesting
But
correlation.
that's my hypothesis. I think there might be a correlation, but that's only my hypothesis. So if you're really scared about it, I think it's a good exercise to sign up for public speaking courses or improvisation classes, this kind of things. I think it's very good to combat this fear also. But that's my personal hypothesis. I don't know. It's not scientifically proven if it whether it works or not, but it's an idea.
Wow, I love your idea. I actually never thought of that. But now that you say that, it actually does make sense why you come up with that. Because in public speaking, you have to be present in front of the people. Like you're in the shining, highlight, like people see you, and you have to stand strong for what you stand for, polarize on your beliefs, on your thoughts, whatever you speak about. And that requires a certain confidence, which you
Yes.
eventually will stand out. And I think many people avoid that part. Where do you think does the fear come from of standing out? Like
Well,
when we look at it deeper.
That's a very interesting question, because I think when we really look at this deep, we go back to really our biology and somehow evolutionary psychology. Now, mind you, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not any of that, so it's kind of train station psychology, what I might say. But I think that when we really go back in time, we used to live in tribes. Just a few short millennia ago, we used to live in tribes, and as social animals, we actually needed to be in a group. We could not survive alone. So rejection from the group was a death sentence. So I think we are wired to avoid rejection by really any cost, really, because back then rejection equals death, so, and this trait is still in our DNA today, because 2000 years is super short, in terms of evolution. And I think that's why people have this fear of standing out, because deep down it's a fear of being rejected. When you stand out, you are scared that people are not going to give approval, that are going to reject you for being different, right? And that also comes back to something else that I saw somewhere, but I don't remember where I saw it. But it was an interesting experiment, and they showed that people actually subconsciously, even though they might think that they're not doing it, but even subconsciously, when they dress, they always dress in such a way to fit in with the crowd, right? And that's also, again, it comes up to the same thing. It's the fear of standing out and fear of being rejected. And I think we all experienced that when we went to a specific event, that we were scared of what to wear, if we were overdressed or underdressed. So that goes again to the same thing.
I always say better to overdress,
Well.
better than underdress, always dress to kill. It's funny that, I love the example that you say that, because, when I was traveling the past 2 months in New York, I saw that a lot. It's very different than here in Switzerland, where people, I feel, are wearing like more decent clothes, in a sense, like black, white, gray. It's not like super colorful or
Yeah.
like very, like outstanding with the colors. But now, me going back like to Korea and New York, I see like really eccentric style, like you
Yeah.
see people almost walking in some sort of bikinis on cities, and then you see somewhere with a pink skirt and someone with a whole blue outfit there, a lot of artists and creators, and I don't think they really care about what other people think. They just like really, they just, maybe they want to actually stand out. And I heard this saying, like, why try to fit in when you're actually born to stand out? You're born to glow.
Exactly, we're born to glow.
And you do that by standing out. And I think it can be such a good indicator why actually you succeed in business and in life, because of you standing out. Can you relate to that? And in what ways would you relate to that also in terms of your business?
Well, already the fact of deciding to create a business is standing out. For most people, unless you are born in a family of entrepreneurs or you are in an entrepreneurial environment, which is not the case for most people, right? Deciding to create your own business is already an act of standing out, because It's risky, and a lot of people will put you the label that you're greedy because you're only doing that for the money. So that's already the first step. The only first step of creating a business is already standing out. So it requires a lot of fortitude to do it. But also in the way you do business, I think it's important to stand out. And we come back to what we said at the beginning, outside of the box thinking. It's the same thing, right? And in the business I am in, at the very beginning, I had no idea I wanted to do tokenization with blockchain. I just said, hey, I want to do a real estate, and I had no idea how to do it. And with my first mentor, we started working, and he said, yeah, that's the way we do it. You do this and this. You get those limited partners who are your investors, and then you will give them this remuneration, and then you will get this remuneration, and you will do this and this and that. And I was looking at it, and I was thinking, isn't there a way to do everything a little bit more simple, and to streamline a little bit? And that's what I presented to my mentor, which was a little bit, again, a bit funny from my part, because I was the guy with no experience, and I was coming with something else, telling to my mentor, actually, I don't like too much what you said. Here's another idea that I had that I think is simpler and better. And he actually liked it. He liked the idea. And from one step to the other, this idea became later the tokenization idea, which, of course, this tokenization thing is also outside of the box thinking. It's standing out in terms of real estate businesses because it's so new and so misunderstood. And I think it's an edge because I'm not one guy that is doing the same thing, among many, many others. There are only a handful of companies and businesses that are doing real estate tokenization. So it's also an advantage.
I love it. And also that you shared that you actually brought proactively an idea to your mentor and
Yes.
the people that you were working with, like being proactive as well. And with that being said, I think that a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, like they have all those ideas, and we talked this in the beginning, but they don't go forward. Especially, I think a lot who especially live with the parents,
Yes.
the parents don't agree with what they do, and this is something that we strongly experience.
Yes.
So for the viewers or audience, I feel if this is something you have like parents or relatives, friends around who don't agree, I think you're not the only one. So many entrepreneurs like I'm interviewing, they go through this. And then you still stand out. You stand out even in your family, and through, and constantly you have to maintain that. It's the whole resilience you have to maintain. You have to maintain the courage to go forward. You have to maintain not of the fear of standing out, but actually to have the courage,
Yeah.
How do you experience that? Like, is this for you like constant that you feel, like I'm on this grounding thing, or what do you do when you get off track and you feel there is now this days where you actually do care a bit more than other days? Do you experience that?
Well, there are certain days I'm kind of more sensitive to what people might think and this whole fear of missing out. There are some days I'm more sensitive to it. Some days I really unsensitive to it. I don't know what it depends on. It's just, I guess, my mood that is a bit different. But I would say that actually I start to care more about what other people think when I am doubting myself. When I am doubting myself and I'm struggling with whatever obstacle I'm struggling with, and I kind of say, maybe they're right, actually. Maybe I should kind of forget a little bit about this and go for a 9-to-5 job and, wait up until I'm 40 because before starting this venture, until I have experience, I am more grounded, etc., etc. It's more when fear or doubt creeps in my mind that kind of that I give more power to what other people might think. Yeah. So I think that when you feel like you're slipping up, getting off track, as you say, really focusing again on your purpose and why you're doing it, what are the emotionally compelling reasons why you want to do what you're working on, it's a good way to get again on track and really become again unattached to other people's opinion of you.
What happens within your thought process when you have those doubts that is just constantly going? Because we know the thoughts, it just like continues. We have so many thoughts ongoing. Yes. What thought do you exchange for another so you can be back in the state of actually moving forward? Yeah,
well, the first thoughts that made me start this whole doubt is that maybe I think that it's too difficult for me, that I'm not made for that, or that this idea is not going to take off because I'm too early in the market, or the market is saturated. There are many reasons that can bring me that. Sometimes I talk with people who who are very skeptical about this whole idea, and they give valid arguments about why it would be difficult to implement. But at that moment, I just take a break, I stop, and I look at other companies who are doing what I want to do, and they're doing it successfully. So that goes to show that it is possible. Since they're doing it, so it's possible, right? There is a market for it, there is demand for it. And also, I kind of think again about the people who are running those companies, who created them. At the end of the day, I remember that they're just humans with 2 legs and 2 arms. They need to sleep, they need to relax also, and they have a normal brain just like mine. So that puts me again on track. And yes, I think again that when I'm facing maybe backlash or criticism, I think again that those people, they're actually telling you what they're feeling inside about them, not really telling you what they think about you deep down.
I love that awareness. Awareness
Yeah.
is so important to have
Yes.
on that. And you also mentioned another thing is like you see that other people who are maybe not smarter, not better in that sense,
Yeah.
you know, they can achieve that as well. And I think many people, they start to compare themselves with other
Yes.
people. And then use that not as an advantage to be actually inspired the way, you know, you would use it as a tool to actually
Exactly.
do more. But then people get discouraged and they let that drown. And then we talk about surroundings. What in your case supports you of actually not having the fear of standing out?
Yeah, well, there are people like you, for example, or the people in my support group that help me in that, people who have achieved certain things where they needed to stand out and they needed other skills. Or sometimes when I don't have those people around me immediately, I can use a lot of stories that actually inspire me, that remind me of that. For example, you talk about comparing ourselves. Sometimes, even though I'm only 25, sometimes I compare myself and telling, oh, this guy, he was 22 and he did this and that, and I didn't achieve that when I was his age, etc., etc. I have sometimes those thoughts in me. So when that happens, I remind myself of stories of people who had success at a later age. I like the story, for example, I'm working on it in my next YouTube video. It's about Colonel Sanders, who started at 62 to really build the KFC business, or Ray Kroc, who started at 58 to build the McDonald's business. So I remind myself of those stories when I feel that I'm sleeping up, or that this whole thought and those beliefs about my age are coming back. I think about this, all the stories of other people to inspire me, and it puts again my focus where it needs to be.
I love that you have this contrast, like you're using
Yes.
the contrast for your advantage. It just depends what sort of contrast. And I think it's also, you know, like society always has these rules by what age you should achieve what.
Yeah.
Like, you know, with success, with marriage, with kids.
At that age, you
with-
have to graduate. At that age, you have to move in
Yes,
with your
and
girlfriend,
it's-
then get married, get promotion, buy a house, having kids, and then go on vacation, having a car that is this and that, and yeah. Really.
It just like goes on, and I think this is again another thing, you know, again, don't have the fear of standing out, because this is their way, and this is the whole podcast about. It's your universal way.
Yeah.
And I feel the way we operate, like, it does not matter. The most important thing is if we do us, and if we do something that actually makes us really happy from the core, and our timing, God's timing, will come and evolve like from that as well. And now with the whole standing out thing, is there any other example in your life or something that you observe